Madhulika Little has joined us today. She is the author of Woman to Woman Stories, a collection of dozen short stories that provides a glimpse into the lives of women across different segments of Indian society. Hi, ma'am.
Hi, nice to meet you, and thank you for having me here.
Pleasure's all mine, ma'am. So, tell us about the journey of the anthology. How did it come to be? How long did you take to write it?
Actually, this did not start off as an anthology per se. I've been writing these stories. Some of them were scattered. I sort of an idea came to me and I wrote it down, and I just kept it with me. I never offered it to anybody for publication or anything. So, and there were some other stories which I had written specifically to be published in, say, an online journal or something. So, for instance, there's a story here called Maplewood, which was written for an online journal called Open Road Review. And there was another story called Poppies in the Snow, which was written for the Sunday Times EFG Prize. So, there were these scattered stories, and my publisher, Speaking Tiger, they approached me and they said, do you want to sort of take out a book of short stories? And I said, okay, I've got quite a few stories which have a theme, they were all women-centric stories. So my editor, she said, okay, let me have a look at them. And I gave her, I think there were maybe about 8 or 9 stories at that time. I gave them to her and she had a look and she said, okay, this sounds doable. So why don't you, I think she made me write 2 or 3 more stories to sort of just fill it out so that it could be a regular, a proper book in itself. And that was it. So I can't actually say how long it took me to write because these went on over several years. I was writing these stories. Some of them were written very early. In fact, I think if you say when I started and when I ended, it was probably about 15 years because one of the earliest stories in this is Sari Satyagraha. And there was another story called, actually the title story, Woman to Woman. These were both written for Oxford Bookstore's e-author award, which was way back. It was many years back, I think 2004 or 2005 or something. So I'd written it for that. And they have now been published in 2017. So it's a long journey.
Wow. So, you must have revised quite a few bits in the stories as well. Did you revise any?
No, not really. Because usually when I write stories, I invariably end up going into a short story with the story pretty well sorted out in my head. I know what I'm going to write. With novels, it's very different because with novels, I chop and change as I go along. But with short stories, invariably, because the length is so small, I have it all sort of figured out in my head what I'm going to write. So my short stories don't go through too many edit cycles on my own. So whatever was written. That's it.
Wow, you have the kind of clarity every writer dies for. That is commendable, ma'am, really.
Thank you.
What what sort of feedback did you initially get?
For this collection or for otherwise?
For this collection, for Woman to Woman.
It was good because even my editor said that the good thing is that the stories in this, though they are often they portray a very negative side of women's lives. From even when you're looking at not just things like sexual abuse or violence and things like that, but also generally about the patriarchal structure of Indian society and the way even educated women and women who are sort of financially independent or financially secure, the sort of sacrifices they are forced to make, or which they are even brainwashed into thinking they have to make. That's really terrible. So even if those stories are sort of coming through in this collection, still there is a hope. There is some sort of ray of light because most of these women are shown in some way standing up for themselves, or there's some sort of positive aspect to the negative. So, that was one thing which my editor appreciated, and that is one thing which I've seen a lot of people appreciate about this. In fact, I think most people tend to say that, like that it's very harsh, and it's very bitter, it's very real, but at the same time, there's that ray of hope. So that is, I think, mostly the feedback has been pretty encouraging. So that is nice.
So, but would you change anything based on the feedback that you've received? Anything too much that pushed you to think, okay, maybe I should not have written this, or you would have written something else differently?
No, I think maybe what I could have done was to have maybe shuffled the stories around a little bit and maybe not included some of the stories which were a little too alike. Because there are one or two stories where people said, "Oh, this is like that other story." So there were stories where people thought that okay, the stories are very similar. So maybe there were some stories which should have been left out, and maybe I could have written another story instead. So that was the only thing. But otherwise, nobody said that, okay, the story is not good or this story shouldn't have been in this collection. It was just that there were some things which people said were maybe a little monotonous. So maybe I should have, in hindsight, not included a particular story because it was bore too much of a resemblance to another one.
I think it came out really great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, talking about how you were talking about the themes that you've portrayed in the book. So you've portrayed some pretty harsh realities, like blood curdling and disturbing. I can only imagine how difficult it must have been to write something like that. What is the emotional toll it takes to write such a collection?
It is, that is, I think, the only way one can actually do that is to spend years over writing something like that, because it is heartbreaking, and you realize that, oh God, this is. There are some aspects of me in all these stories as well. So there is that emotional connect to these women. Of course, I'm like really, really lucky that these horrible things have not happened to me, but I've seen them happen to people. And that is what is so frightening. That you are not being privileged, being educated, whatever. You're still not really safe from half of the horrible things that happen around you. And yes, it does take its toll on you, and it's disturbing. You can't just write it and forget about it. So that was why I think I actually wrote these stories, because I wanted people to understand and to know, because there were lots of people, for instance, who did not know about the whole bride trafficking thing. That came as a shock to me as well. I mean, I'd heard of bride trafficking, but I did not know just how bad it was. So in a way, it's a sort of cathartic feeling. I feel that okay, I've sort of done something to educate people around me on how things are. Sort of bothers me after I've written. It's still there. It's all there. It's not as if I go through this whole cycle of turmoil and trauma, but it's sort of, I hope I come out of it a more sensitive person. And I hope that the readers also will come out of it more sensitized.
Yes.
So I think that is what I look for.
Well, more power to you for writing such stories. Really, thank you for writing such stories, because it is needed. It is, somebody has to write them. So you also, like you just said, that in a way, every woman in the book is you. And you also mentioned on your blog that you've actually met some of these women. And when you look at characters like Sana from Paro and Iqbal from Poppies in the Snow, they're so well written. I mean, they almost seem real. And that makes me wonder, have you ever met any of these characters personally? Like, have you met a trafficked bride or a woman, from the Village Defense Committee?
Not the women from the Village Defense Committee, but I have met trafficked brides. In fact, I met 5 of them in one day, and that was really traumatic. What had happened was that there was this German journalist who was going to write a book on sexual harassment in India. That was her idea. That was what she would write about. And what happened was that when she did research on it, she discovered that there was so much about bride trafficking in India and so little had been explored about it, that she eventually ended up writing the book completely on trafficked brides. And what happened was that when she was in the initial stages of her research, she found this NGO in Delhi, which dealt only in bride trafficking. That was their core area. And she spoke to them, and they said, okay, we'll take you to Mewat, which is where there's a huge proportion of trafficked brides in that area. And they said, we'll take you for a day and you can talk to these women, and but you'll have to take some woman along to interpret for you, because these women are not going to, if you're talking about your own experiences, and a lot of them are, naturally, they're village women. They said that if you need somebody to interpret for you, because this German woman obviously didn't know any Hindi. So they said, why don't you ask somebody if there's a woman who can go along with you. So she asked me, and I went with her, and it was quite horrifying, because I met these women. I think I met one at one place and two at another, and two more at another at their house. And it was shocking, because these women, there was this one woman I remember who really startled me. She was 25 years old. Her eldest child was 12 years old. You can imagine. So that means she had her first child when she was 13. And she very calmly showed us, she said, look at my arm. And it had this huge cut on it, which had healed. It was a scar which had healed. And she said, my husband did this to me because I wasn't able to get his food ready on time. I was out in the fields, I was working. So I didn't get his food ready on time. So he picked up the sickle and he hit me with it. And that was where the scar came from. And then he put salt into it. And it was horrifying. And all these women have these sort of stories to tell. And this man from the NGO who was with us, he said that the women, the traffic brides, have a almost 100% case of being married once, married as in like basically sold off, raped by one man, and then sold off to another man. So almost all of them have this case of having been through 2 or 3 husbands, so to say, who have all sort of used these women as sort of sex slaves and then as bonded labor. So they're wives only in name. They're basically there just to work and to have children. That's it. So it's horrifying. It's been maybe about 7 or 8 years since I went on that trip to Mewar. And I sort of think of that and I get goosebumps because it was so horrifying. I mean, I've never imagined something like that. But that is how it is. It is horrible.
It sounds horrendous. My goodness, it's really makes you angry in your bones. I mean,
exactly. It's I just made me feel so guilty that okay, I come from this privileged place, and these women are in such a horrible condition. It was terrible. It was really terrible. And that was why I said, okay, I have to write about this because very few people know about it. So that's why.
Yeah, the rubbing the salt in the wound part is there in the short story Paro. Is that where you got it from? So
yeah, in fact, almost everything that is written over there in that short story, it's been gleaned from the stories of different women. The women whom I met that day. There's something from one place, something from another place. So it's of course there is a lot of fiction in it also. But the rubbing salt in the wound, that really shook me up.
Yeah. So what do the male readers of Woman to Woman have to say about the collection? What reactions have you gotten from the male readers of the book?
Most of them have been quite positive. There was one person who was very, very effusive. He said, "Oh my God, this is so good!" And he's a writer himself. He's just written a couple of books so far, but he's like highly impressed. He was like, "Ma'am, I will read every other book of yours. Your book is so good. This is so good. Thank you so much." So anyway, that is I sort of hope that is more the reaction from more people.
No, but I don't mean to generalize, but because this anthology is about women, the audience, the readers of this anthology will tend to be more women than men. And don't you think that will sort of defeat the purpose of the collection?
I don't think so. Yes, it would be very nice if more men read it. But also, I think, at least in India, one problem is that a lot of us women are the worst enemies of women. It's sad that women seem to rub it in. Like, for instance, they support a lot of women, even though they are educated and whatever, are the strongest supporters of patriarchy, and they're the strongest supporters of injustices against women, which is really sad. So and of course the fact is that things like what I've highlighted in Paro, what I've highlighted in Poppies in the Snow, these are things which we women ourselves don't know. We are often so cocooned in our own little worlds that okay, something which is like which is fairly common, like say what I've highlighted in Two Doors about a marriage, and about the struggle between sort of having a career and having a baby, and the pressures on having a child or something. Those are things which are okay. Everybody can sort of, at least your urban educated woman can sort of understand and sympathize with. But a lot there are things here which don't happen to us. At least we don't think it happens to us. With bride trafficking is like, it's not going to happen. It's obvious it's not going to happen to you and me. And we are far away from Kashmir, whatever. So, but to be able to understand what is happening to those women out there, even though they are not us, that is, I think, important. It's a sort of a building up of the womanhood, of understanding that, okay, these also are women and they are going through something horrible. And if we sort of extend some sort of, fellowship towards them, even if it's only emotional support or something, there is something can grow out of that. So I think even just if the book is able to encourage women themselves to not pull other women down and to not let patriarchy sort of hammer us down and get us down, I think that is part of the problem solved. Men can come later. I think women should sort of assert themselves on their own first.
Just like you said, that whatever we can do, whatever little, we definitely should. And I'm really hoping that this book will be a step in that direction. So kudos to you for writing it. Yes.
Thank you.
I also, when I started reading the book, I noticed that you dedicated the book to your mother and her best friend. What interesting backstory lies there?
The interesting backstory is that my mother's best friend is a writer. Her name is Swapna Datta, and she's a very well-known writer and a translator. So she writes for children mainly. She also writes for adults, but mostly she's known for being a children's writer. But she translates copiously between Bengali, English, and Hindi. And she's one of the finest translators in Bengali in the country today. She's amazing. And she used to be my mother's best friend in college. So I met first when I was maybe 6 years old, and I was very fascinated, that my mother's friend is a writer. That was like, I thought that was so amazing. That was so cool. And then later when I grew up and I decided I actually wanted to try my hand at writing, it was Swapna auntie who sort of encouraged me, and she was in a way, she was my inspiration, and she was in a way my muse also, so she used to she gave me some tips on how to get published and stuff like that. This was like very early on, but I think eventually the whole thing was that she was my inspiration. She was the only writer I ever knew, and I was really impressed and inspired by her. So that is why I dedicated the book to her. My mother, because my mother's an MA in English, and she was the one who insisted that we speak at home in English, and that English had to be really good, and we had to read a lot. She still has bookshelves and bookshelves full of books. And she brought me and my sister up in this atmosphere crowded with books. So I owe my love for reading to her, to my father also, but more to my mother. So that is why it seemed sort of appropriate to dedicate this book to two women who played such a huge part in my, not just my personal life, but in my writing career also in a way.
Wow. So woman to woman indeed, just like the title. So
yeah, yes.
That is amazing, ma'am. Can you recommend any other books centered around women for our readers?
Well, there are lots of the usual suspects, like for instance, there is people like Margaret Atwood, her Handmaid's Tale is beautiful. Then one more book which I really enjoyed, I read recently and which I really enjoyed was this book which had been written many, many years ago by Asha Purna Devi. It's called The First Promise. Pratham Pratishruti, I think, was the Bengali name for it, and it was translated into English, a very good translation called The First Promise. It's an excellent book about a very strong-willed woman growing up in Bengal in the cusp of the century. And it's amazing because it's this woman who wants to be educated and who wants to have her own way in an India which does not believe in women having any sort of weight, any sort of thing. It's a very good book. I really love that one. Then there is one book which I really liked. It's not a novel, but it's a non-fiction book by Manisha Sobrajani. It is called Kashmir, the Land I Dream of. So it is, I mean, from the title, you would think that okay, it's about Kashmir itself, but it's not just about Kashmir. It is about the story of Kashmir's women. So it's about women in Kashmir, and that was where my inspiration for the Poppies in the Snow story came from, because she talks about how the women in Kashmir are, the sort of problems they face, and how they're getting over those problems, how they've sort of gone through everything from rape to violence to mental problems and all that. And it's a very good book, excellent book. And lastly, because I'm a huge fan of history and I love history so much, there's a book by Ira Mukhoti called Daughters of the Sun, which is about the women of the Mughals. Usually, and not just people like Noor Jahan and Mumtaz Mahal and Jahanara, but the other women also. The matriarchs who came with Babar from Central Asia and all that. And it is a fascinating book. I love that book. I could read it again and again. It's a fascinating book, and that's it. So those are my 4 recommendations.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the lovely recommendations. Talking about your writing in general, you write in so many formats. You write novels, short stories, you do travel writing, you write humorous stories, you do cinematic writing. How do you juggle all these? Like, when an idea first pops into your head, how do you decide whether it's better suited to a short story or a novel?
That I can usually tell because I know how big the idea is. If it's something like, for instance, something really small, just one little nugget or some little thing I saw which I want to write about, but I know it's not. I can tell instinctively that okay, this is something which would be suited to a novel, or this is something which would be suited to a short story. I can tell usually. There was one notable exception, which was I got an idea to write about a woman in her 40s who falls in love with somebody and gets married to him, in maybe somewhere in Khadwal or Kumang or something. I had this idea. So I started off writing it. It was a short story to start off with. And it sort of grew and grew and grew. It went from being a short story to a novella. And then it ended up being a novel. So, that was, I think, the only one time where I've not known what it's going to be. But otherwise, I sort of know, okay, what's going to be a short story, what's going to be a novel, I can tell.
Wow, I am so envious of you, just so plain envious, because starting out, you don't know where you're going, you already know, so really, that's amazing.
I think it's all a question of, practice, and if you've been writing for a long time, and I've been writing for a long time now, so I think I've just sort of got used to the whole. Writing is just a skill, and the more you hone it, the more you write, the better you get at it. So these sort of things, after a while, you can manage it. It's not difficult.
Yeah. But although you have been writing for a long time, like you said, you have switched career paths quite frequently in the past, but not since you came to writing. So in a way, is writing like coming home to you?
Yes, it is definitely. I think one reason why I changed career paths quite a bit was that I sort of maybe lost interest somewhere. I got bored. I get bored easily. With writing, that doesn't happen because I keep going from one project to the other project. And once one book is done, I plunge into another one. And sometimes I have like 3 or 4 books going simultaneously. So there's never a dull moment. And I think that is what is so sort of encouraging and so heartening about writing for me. Because I'm excited and happy all the time.
Wow, that's spoken like a true writer. Anyone who loves writing, I'm sure, feels this way. Poppies in the Snow was longlisted for, the Sunday Times AFG Short Story Award. What was that experience like?
I was a little surprised because I didn't realize that the story had that potential. But yeah, I was really, really excited. So that was it. Just excited. That's all. Of course, I didn't make it to the shortlist, but anyway, I was happy.
Poppies in the Snow is, based in Kashmir. So it must have taken a lot of research to write on the story, I'm assuming. Did you, what kind of
No,
research? Not really?
not really. I had this book by Manisha Subrajani, which I was talking about, called Kashmir, the Land I Dream of. So the idea for the village defense committee and all that came from there, and her background on how the insurgents sort of came into Kashmir and how they sort of first made contact with the villagers and sort of wooed them over, and how later disaffection set in. That came from her book. But as far as Kashmir itself is concerned, I've lived in Kashmir. I lived in Srinagar for 3 years. From 82 to 85, I lived in Srinagar, which was a little before the problem really got bad. But I've seen that. I know of people who, there were family friends who were killed, after we left. So even though I left Kashmir by that time, but I have very vivid memories of what Kashmir was like. And as it happens, because of my interest in Kashmir, I've gone on, sort of keeping track of what is happening in Kashmir. And I have friends who are Kashmiris. So, it's like I may be away from Kashmir, but I'm not really far away from Kashmir. So, actually doing the research for Kashmir, I didn't actually have to do any research for this. It flowed because this is a place I've lived in. And it's, even though I was very small, it's all there. It's all fresh in my memory. So it all came out from my own experiences.
I loved Poppies in the Snow. I mean, personally, that was my favorite story from the whole collection.
Thank you.
And after reading it, the kind of things you tend to go back and rethink, certain dialogues, certain things that you mentioned, that is nerve-wracking. All right, great. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was lovely speaking to you.
Thank you so much.